Hello, this is Tom for Tabletop Tap Room. Today we're looking at the no builds in Old School D&D because they're starting to develop a almost old man yelling, "Get off my lawn!" Aspect to this, I think, and I wanted to cover whether or not there really was builds back in old school play. Maybe not necessarily D&D, but let's look at that today. So there's a lot of talk lately about how old school Dungeons and Dragons didn't have builds. I hear people say things like, "Back in the day, my character wasn't a build. It was defined by the world and the campaign and what happened at the table." And honestly, I mostly agree with that. But modern Dungeons and Dragons, especially Dungeons and Dragons from 3rd edition onward into the 5th edition, leans heavily into mechanical optimization. You have feats, you have subclasses, multi-classing. You can map out your character from level 1 through level 20 before the campaign even starts. But here's where I think the conversation gets a little too nostalgic. The idea that there were no builds back then is not entirely true. It's more accurate to say that D&D didn't emphasize builds, but other games absolutely did. So the debate is player skill versus character skill. And to understand why this matters, we need to talk something about some more of the fundamentals. Player skill versus character skill. Old school D&D was built around player skill. There's a trap. You don't roll first, you describe what you're doing. There's a puzzle. The solution isn't on your character sheet, it's in your head. If there's a danger, survival depends on your decisions, not your build. The game is asking the question, what do you do? The modern D&D shifts the emphasis to character skill. And now the question becomes, what is your character good at? And these answers will live on the sheet. And now I remember a specific moment in my play back then. My mother signed me up for this D&D class at the community center. 30 of us got in, and it really wasn't a class. It was, we're going to do a castle siege. 10 of you will defend, 20 of you will attack. We created our characters, we got horses, and the castle was laid out on the table. For some reason, I decided to play a druid, which was not an optimal choice. No heavy armor, limited weapons, and in a stone castle. Like druids are all about the forest, and I'm going to go defend a castle. I don't know what I was thinking. It was like the least optimal choice I could make. But as things kicked off, my group was racing across the drawbridge, scrambling to get up on the walls and take the best defensive positions. And at that moment, I realized someone needs to hold the bridge. And because there were 20 attackers coming straight down on us on a horseback, I stayed on the bridge. And that decision just made the moment. It turned the whole thing. My character basically became Horatio at the bridge, except it was a druid with his war dogs. And we held the line long enough for someone to get to the mechanism to raise the drawbridge, and it worked. And that made that druid cool. That was emergent play, and nothing about optimization there. I should have picked a fighter. I should have had a bow. I should have gone for metal armor. Should have done so many other things. And I made these poor decisions that weren't optimal, but yet I became the druid that held the bridge. And that was a lot of fun. What a build actually is. A build is really just planned mechanical identity. It's deciding ahead of time what your character will be good at and how they will progress. What combinations define them. Modern D&D supports this extremely well. But again, it's a different experience than discovering your characters through play. The missing piece in the conversation, when people say old school games didn't have builds, they're usually talking about D&D. But if you zoom out and build focused design was everywhere. You've got GURPS from Steve Jackson. You had Rollmaster and Middle Earth role playing from Iron Crown Enterprises. And today, if you wanted that Middle Earth role playing was kind of was Rollmaster Light. And if you want that Middle Earth role playing, High Adventure role playing is like the 3rd edition of Middle Earth, but without the token-esque IP overlaid on it. So that's still available today. And those aren't the only examples. You had Champions with Hero System, point-based superhero builds. Those were fun to build. RuneQuest, skill-driven progression instead of rigid classes. You had Traveler with the life path generation to build a character through history. And honestly, I feel like if you've not done the Traveler life path and had a character die during character creation, you really haven't fully lived. Traveler, I think, is just one of those really unique systems. Ars Magica had a deep specialization, especially for magic users. And Cyberpunk 2020, you had roll plus your skills package, customization. There was just different approaches, but the same idea. And the mechanics were shaping identity, and it was evolving alongside D&D at the same time as D&D was evolving itself. So there were times where I just couldn't find a D&D game, nobody to play with. And I ended up building characters for fun using Champions and Middle Earth role-playing and GURPS, or even designing vehicles for Car Wars. That was fun, and it allowed me to connect with the hobby and have fun even when I didn't have a table to sit at with other players. Old School says, go into the world and find out who you become. Build focus systems say, decide who you are and then play that character. And this is where I agree with Tenkar's Tavern. Old School D&D isn't about builds. It rewards player skill, not optimization. Optimize the player, not the character. So when we say Old School D&D didn't have builds, what we really mean is Old School D&D prioritized player skill over character skill. And the best part, you don't have to choose. You can enjoy both styles. And honestly, the hobby is better because both exist. So this is Tom for Tabletop Taproom signing out. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and bell icon. And I will see you at the gaming table.